Mark was a soldier from Earth. He had trained hard for years. Now he was on a new mission. His spaceship flew high above a bright green planet. As he looked down, he felt excited and nervous. This planet was different from Earth. It was full of strange plants and tall mountains. Mark wondered what he would find there. The spaceship landed with a soft thud. Mark opened the door and stepped out. The air was fresh and smelled sweet, like flowers. He looked around. Everything was bright and colorful. Birds with bright feathers flew in the sky, singing sweet songs. Mark felt amazed. This world was beautiful, but he also felt a little afraid. As Mark walked, he noticed something unusual. In the distance, he saw a group of women. They were tall and strong, with long hair that flowed like the wind. They wore bright clothes made of leaves and colorful fabrics. Mark felt curious. Who were they? Why were they here? He walked closer, trying to be quiet, but suddenly he heard shouting. Mark's heart raced. He saw that the women were surrounded by men. The men looked angry. They were holding weapons and shouting orders. The women seemed scared but brave. One woman stood out. She had long, dark hair and fierce green eyes. Her name was Lyra. Mark's heart sank. The women were slaves. He could see it in their faces. They wanted to be free. Mark felt a strong urge to help them. He was a soldier after all. He had fought for justice on Earth, and he could not turn away now. He quickly hid behind a big rock and watched. Lyra was trying to break free from the men. She fought hard, kicking and pushing, but the men were too strong. Mark clenched his fists. He couldn't just stand there. He had to act. Mark took a deep breath. He remembered his training. He was fast and smart. He looked around for a plan. Then he saw a tree nearby with long, thick branches. If he could climb it, he could jump down and distract the men. Maybe Lyra could escape. Mark climbed the tree quietly. He reached a sturdy branch that was high above the ground. From there, he could see everything clearly. Lyra was still struggling. The men were laughing at her. Mark felt anger rise in him. They didn't see the strength and bravery in her. With a determined look, Mark prepared to jump. He saw the moment Lyra was pushed to the ground. The men thought they had won. Mark could not let this happen. He leaped from the branch, landing with a thud in front of the men. "Hey, leave her alone," Mark shouted, his voice strong and clear. The men turned in surprise. They had not expected a soldier from another world. Mark stood tall, ready to fight. Lyra looked up, her eyes wide. She had not seen him before, but in that moment she felt hope. "What do you want, Earthling?" One of the men sneered. He was big and looked very tough. But Mark didn't back down. "I want you to let these women go. They deserve to be free," Mark declared. The men laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Mark did not wait for them to decide. He charged forward, using all his training. He fought bravely, taking down one man after another. The Amazons watched in awe. They had never seen a man fight like this before. Lyra saw Mark fighting. She felt a spark of courage inside her. She struggled to her feet, joining the fight. Together, they were a strong team. Lyra fought like a warrior, using her skills to help Mark. They moved in perfect sync, surprising the men who had thought they could easily defeat them. As they fought, Mark felt a connection with Lyra. They were both fighting for freedom, for a chance to live without fear. Mark could see her strength, and it inspired him to fight harder. He knew he could not let her down. Finally, the last of the men fell to the ground. They were defeated. Mark and Lyra stood together, breathing heavily. The Amazons looked at them in shock. Mark smiled at Lyra, and she smiled back, a spark of admiration in her eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice softening. Lyra nodded, still catching her breath. "Yes, thanks to you." Mark felt proud. He had helped Lyra escape, but now they were not safe yet. The other men would come back, and they needed to leave quickly. "Let's go," Mark said urgently. "We need to find a safe place." Lyra agreed, and they started to run together. The two of them, a soldier from Earth and a warrior from another world, were now united in their quest for freedom. As they ran, Mark realized this was just the beginning of their journey. They would face many challenges ahead, but he felt ready. He had found a brave companion in Lyra, and together they would fight for a better life. The bold escape. Mark and Lyra ran through the thick forest, their hearts racing. The sounds of their footsteps echoed in the quiet. Mark glanced back, worried that the men might chase after them. But the forest was dense, with tall trees blocking their path. They had gained some distance, but they needed a plan. "Where can we go?" Lyra asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Mark thought for a moment. "We need to find a safe place to hide. Somewhere they can't find us easily." They continued running until they spotted a small cave tucked away behind some bushes. It was hidden from sight and looked perfect for shelter. "There," Mark pointed. "Let's go in there." They hurried into the cave, breathing heavily. Inside, it was dark but cool. Mark looked around, checking for any dangers. The cave was empty, except for some rocks and a few old leaves. They would be safe here for a while. Lyra leaned against the wall, catching her breath. "Thank you for saving me," she said, her green eyes shining in the dim light. "I didn't think anyone would come for us." Mark smiled softly. "I couldn't just stand by. You are strong, and you fought bravely. I admire that." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. No one had ever praised her like this before. She had always been seen as a slave, but here was someone who saw her as a warrior. They shared a moment of silence, both understanding that their lives had changed forever. After a while, Mark said, "We should think of a plan. We can't stay here forever." Lyra nodded. "The Amazons will come looking for us. They will not give up easily." Mark looked at her. "Do you know any safe places nearby? Maybe a village or another cave?" Lyra thought hard. "There is a village not far from here. It's a place where the Amazons help each other. But it's dangerous. We must be careful." Mark felt a mix of excitement and fear. "Then we have to reach that village. It could be our chance to find safety and help." "Let's wait until it's dark," Lyra suggested. "Then we can move without being seen." As the sun began to set, the cave filled with shadows. Mark and Lyra prepared to leave. They gathered their strength and focused on the path ahead. Mark felt a sense of purpose. He wanted to protect Lyra and give her the freedom she deserved. When it was dark, they crept out of the cave. The night was cool, and the stars twinkled above them. Mark took Lyra's hand, and they moved quietly through the forest. The only sounds were the rustling leaves and the chirping of crickets. As they walked, Lyra shared stories of her life. "I was born in a small village. We lived close to nature, but we were always afraid of the tribe that took us," she explained. "I dreamed of freedom every day." Mark listened intently. He wanted to know everything about her. "What did you dream of doing when you were free?" he asked. Lyra smiled softly. "I wanted to explore the world. I wanted to be strong and help others like me." Mark admired her spirit. "You already are strong. You fought to escape, and now we're on our way to freedom together." They continued walking, their bond growing stronger with each step. Suddenly, they heard a noise. Mark froze, his heart pounding. He glanced back and saw shadows moving in the distance. The Amazons had come to search for them. "Quick, hide," Mark whispered urgently. They ducked behind a thick tree, holding their breath. Mark peered around the trunk, watching the group of Amazons pass by. They looked fierce and determined, searching every nook and cranny. Mark felt fear wash over him. What if they found them? Lyra gripped Mark's hand tightly. "What do we do if they see us?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Stay calm," Mark replied, his voice steady. If they get too close, we will have to make a run for it. We can't let them catch us." The group of Amazons continued searching, but after a tense moment, they moved on. Mark let out a sigh of relief. "That was close," he said, looking at Lyra. "Yes, but they will not stop searching for long," she warned. "We need to keep moving." They resumed their journey, this time moving faster. As they approached the village, Mark could see small huts made of wood and leaves. It looked peaceful, but he knew it could also be dangerous. "What if they don't trust us?" Mark asked, worried. Lyra thought for a moment. "If we explain why we are here, they might help us. They understand the need for freedom." As they entered the village, Mark felt a mix of hope and fear. The villagers looked at them with curious eyes. Lyra stepped forward and spoke to a woman who seemed to be in charge. "We need help," she said, her voice strong. "We are running from the tribe that enslaved us." The woman studied them carefully. "Why should we trust you?" she asked. Mark felt nervous, but he knew this was their chance. "Because we fight for our freedom," he said. "We can help each other." Lyra stood by his side, her presence strong. They both knew that this was just the beginning of their journey. Together, they had taken bold steps toward freedom, and they were ready to face whatever came next. Hiding together, Mark and Lyra stood at the entrance of the village, their hearts pounding with hope and fear. The villagers watched them with curious eyes. Mark felt nervous. Would they accept them or send them away? The woman in charge, a tall Amazon with a kind face, stepped forward. "You say you are running from the tribe. Why should we trust you?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Lyra took a deep breath. "We fight for freedom. I was a slave, and Mark saved me. We need help to stay safe." The woman studied them closely. Mark could see the worry in her eyes. She turned to the villagers and spoke in their language. They murmured among themselves, unsure of what to do. Mark felt anxious but stood tall beside Lyra, ready to face whatever came next. After a moment, the woman nodded. "Very well. You can stay here, but you must prove your loyalty to our village." Relief washed over Mark and Lyra. They followed the woman deeper into the village, where they found simple wooden huts surrounded by lush greenery. The air was filled with the smell of herbs and flowers, making Mark feel more at ease. The woman led them to a hut at the center of the village. "This will be your home for now," she said. "You can rest, but we expect you to help us." "Thank you," Lyra replied, her voice filled with gratitude. Mark smiled at her, feeling a sense of hope. They had found a place where they could be safe, at least for the moment. Inside the hut, they found 2 simple beds and a small table. The walls were decorated with colorful fabrics, telling stories of the village's history. Mark and Lyra looked around, feeling a mix of comfort and curiosity. "I can't believe we're safe for now," Mark said, sitting on the bed. "But we need to plan our next move." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "We must show them that we can help. Maybe we can train together or help with their tasks." Mark agreed. "Let's ask the villagers what they need. We can prove our worth." Later that day, they met with the village leader again. "We can help you with whatever tasks you have," Mark said. "Just tell us what you need." The woman thought for a moment. "We need help with gathering food and protecting the village. There are dangers nearby, and we need strong hands." Lyra's eyes lit up. "We can do that. I know how to gather herbs and fruits, and Mark can help with protection." The leader smiled, impressed. "Very well. Start tomorrow. I will show you where to go." That night, Mark and Lyra lay in their beds, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. They whispered about their plans, their voices barely above a hush. "What if they don't accept us?" Lyra asked, her brow furrowed. "We will work hard," Mark replied confidently. "If we show them we care, they will see we are on their side." Lyra nodded, feeling comforted by Mark's words. "I trust you, Mark. We are in this together." As the night deepened, they both fell asleep, dreaming of a better future. The next morning, the sun rose bright and warm. Mark and Lyra woke up early, ready to start their new tasks. They washed their faces in a nearby stream and prepared to meet the villagers. The leader greeted them with a smile. "Today, you will gather fruits and herbs. Follow me." They walked through the village and into the forest. Lyra felt at home among the trees. She showed Mark how to identify different plants and fruits. They worked together, laughing as they picked berries and gathered herbs. "This is fun," Mark said, enjoying the fresh air and the sound of birds singing. "I never thought I would do this." Lyra smiled. It feels good to be free and work together. As they gathered food, they talked about their dreams. Lyra shared stories of her childhood, while Mark spoke about his life on Earth. They felt closer with each story. After a few hours, they returned to the village with baskets full of fruits and herbs. The villagers welcomed them with smiles and cheers. Mark felt proud. They had worked hard and earned the villagers' trust. Later that day, the village leader called a meeting. "Mark and Lyra have proven their worth," she announced. "They have helped us gather food, and they will be part of our community." Mark and Lyra exchanged smiles, their hearts full of joy. They felt accepted and valued. This was the beginning of a new life for them. As the days passed, Mark and Lyra continued to help the village. They learned how to protect it from dangers, training with the villagers to defend their home. They became friends with everyone, sharing laughter and stories. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with colors, Mark and Lyra sat by a fire. The villagers gathered around, enjoying a meal together. Lyra looked at the flames, her heart feeling light. "Do you think we'll ever be truly free?" she asked Mark, her voice soft. Mark took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We are free now, Lyra. We have each other, and we are building a life together. We will always fight for our freedom." Lyra smiled, feeling a sense of hope. They were no longer alone. They had each other and a new family in the village. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way, united in their quest for freedom and love. Danger approaches. The days in the village passed with laughter and hard work. Mark and Lyra felt like they belonged. They had made friends, learned new skills, and found a sense of peace. But deep inside, a shadow lingered. Mark knew that the tribe they had escaped from would not forget them. One sunny morning, as Mark and Lyra trained with the villagers, they heard a loud horn in the distance. The villagers stopped and looked worried. "What does that mean?" Mark asked, glancing around. The village leader, a tall woman with strong features, stepped forward. "That horn means danger is near. We must prepare." Mark's heart raced. "What kind of danger?" The leader replied, "The tribe will come to find you. They will not stop until they capture you both." Lyra's face turned pale. "We need to warn everyone," she exclaimed. "Calm down," the leader said firmly. "We will defend our home. Everyone must gather and prepare for a fight. Mark, Lyra, you are with me." Mark nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. He had trained for battles, but now it felt real. This was not just about him and Lyra. It was about the entire village. As they ran to the center of the village, Mark felt the weight of the situation. He glanced at Lyra, who looked worried but resolute. "We can do this," he said softly. "We fought before." She nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Yes, we are stronger together." The villagers gathered, their faces filled with fear and courage. The leader spoke to them, her voice strong. "The tribe will come soon. We will defend our home and fight for our freedom. We are not alone. We have each other." The villagers cheered, their spirits lifted by her words. Mark felt a surge of confidence. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "We will protect this village. We can fight them together." Lyra stood beside him, her heart racing. "We have trained hard. We know how to defend ourselves. Let's show them that we are not afraid." The villagers nodded, ready to fight for their home. They gathered weapons made from wood and stone. Mark showed them how to use them effectively, sharing his training as a soldier. Lyra demonstrated her agility and skill, inspiring others to do their best. As they prepared, Mark couldn't shake the feeling of dread. What if they come in great numbers? He asked Lyra quietly. We will stand strong, she replied, her voice steady. We have each other and the village. That makes us powerful. Just then, a villager rushed in, breathless and wide-eyed. They are coming. I saw them in the distance. Mark felt his heart race. The tribe was near. They had to act quickly. Everyone, take your positions, he shouted. Stay together. The villagers quickly formed a line, ready to defend their home. Mark and Lyra stood at the front, their hearts pounding. They could see shadows moving in the distance, growing closer. Then they heard the loud sound of drums, echoing through the forest. It sent chills down Mark's spine. The tribe was close. Get ready, he shouted, gripping his weapon tightly. As the tribe approached, Mark's pulse quickened. They were a fierce sight. Strong warriors with tattoos and weapons glinting in the sunlight. The leader of the tribe stepped forward, a tall man with a fierce look in his eyes. He shouted, We have come for the Earthling and the Amazon. Surrender now, or face our wrath. Mark felt anger rise in him. We will never surrender, he yelled back, his voice strong. Lyra stood by his side, her gaze fierce. You will not take us back. We are free now. The tribe laughed, but it was not a friendly sound. Fools, you think you can fight us? The leader grinned, showing his sharp teeth. Mark felt a rush of adrenaline. We may be outnumbered, but we are not afraid. We fight for our freedom. The villagers stood tall beside them, united and determined. The leader of the tribe signaled for his warriors to advance. Attack, he ordered. The battle began. Mark and Lyra fought side by side, using everything they had learned. They moved quickly, dodging blows and striking back. Mark felt alive in the chaos, each move filled with purpose. Lyra fought with grace, her skills shining bright. But the tribe was fierce. They charged forward, trying to overpower the villagers. Mark saw one of the villagers fall and felt panic rise in him. Stay together, he shouted, urging everyone to hold their ground. As the battle raged on, Mark caught a glimpse of the tribe's leader. He was coming straight for them. Lyra, Mark shouted, we need to take him down. Lyra nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. They moved as one, pushing through the chaos until they reached the leader. They fought him together, striking with speed and strength. Mark felt the heat of the battle around him, but all he could focus on was defeating the leader. They pushed him back, but he was strong and fought fiercely. Mark felt tired, but he couldn't give up. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they managed to outsmart the leader. With a final strike, he fell to the ground, defeated. The remaining tribe members hesitated, their fear growing. Mark raised his weapon, breathing heavily. We will not back down. You are not welcome here. Seeing their leader down, the tribe began to retreat. The villagers cheered, their voices filled with triumph. Mark and Lyra stood together, hearts racing with victory and relief. But even in victory, Mark felt the weight of the battle. They had won today, but the danger was not over. They would have to stay strong and be ready for whatever came next. Together, they faced the horizon, knowing that they would continue to fight for their freedom and the future they dreamed of. A fresh start. After the battle, the village was filled with a mix of relief and celebration. Mark and Lyra stood together, watching the villagers cheer for their victory. They had fought hard, and now they were free from the tribe that had tried to take them back. The village leader approached them, a smile on her face. You both fought bravely. You have proven yourselves as true warriors, she said, her voice full of pride. Mark felt a warm glow in his heart. We couldn't have done it without the villagers. Everyone worked together, he replied humbly. Lyra nodded, her green eyes shining. Yes, we are a team now. We are all in this together. The villagers began to prepare a feast to celebrate their victory. They gathered fruits, cooked meat over the fire, and made colorful decorations. Mark and Lyra helped, feeling a sense of joy and belonging. For the first time in a long while, they felt safe. As night fell, the village lit torches, and the feast began. Villagers danced and sang, filling the air with laughter. Mark and Lyra joined in, their hearts light with happiness. Lyra felt a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. "This is wonderful," she said, smiling at Mark. "We have made a new home." Mark looked around at the smiling faces. "Yes, it feels like a fresh start. We can finally be who we want to be." After the feast, the village leader called everyone together. "We are grateful for the strength and courage of Mark and Lyra. They have helped us protect our home. We will always stand together against any threat," she announced. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Mark and Lyra exchanged glances, feeling proud. They had found a place where they belonged. The next day, the sun rose bright and warm. Mark woke up early, ready to start a new chapter in their lives. He stepped outside and took a deep breath, enjoying the fresh air. Lyra joined him, her hair shining in the sunlight. "What should we do today?" she asked, her voice cheerful. Mark thought for a moment. "Maybe we can help with building new huts. The villagers need more homes, especially after the battle." Lyra smiled, her eyes sparkling. "That's a great idea. Let's get started." They spent the day working alongside the villagers. Mark used his strength to lift heavy logs, while Lyra gathered materials and helped plan the layout of the new huts. They shared laughter and stories, feeling the bond between them grow stronger. As they worked, Mark realized how much he enjoyed being part of this community. "It feels good to help," he said to Lyra. "We are building something special here." "Yes," she replied, wiping sweat from her brow. "We are creating a home for everyone. This is what freedom feels like." As the sun began to set, they stood back to admire their work. A row of new huts stood proudly, and the village felt more alive than ever. Villagers were smiling, working together, and supporting one another. Mark felt a sense of accomplishment. Later that evening, as they sat by the fire, Lyra turned to Mark. "Do you think we will always be safe here?" she asked, her voice soft. Mark took a deep breath, thinking about the dangers they had faced. "I hope so. But we must always be prepared. We can't forget that there are still threats out there." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "You're right. We should train the villagers to stay strong and ready." "That's a great idea," Mark said, feeling inspired. "We can teach them what we know. Together, we can protect our home." The next day, they gathered the villagers and shared their plan. Mark spoke to them, explaining the importance of staying strong and prepared. "We will train together," he said. "We will learn to fight and protect our village." The villagers listened, eager to learn. They formed groups, and Mark began teaching them basic combat skills. Lyra joined in, helping with agility and strategy. As the days went by, the villagers trained hard, growing stronger and more confident. Mark and Lyra felt proud of their progress. They were becoming a united force, ready to protect their home. One evening, after a long day of training, Mark and Lyra sat together under the stars. The village was peaceful, and the sound of crickets filled the air. "I love these moments," Lyra said, gazing at the night sky. "It feels like everything is finally falling into place." Mark smiled, his heart full. "We have come so far. We fought for our freedom, and now we are building a life together." Lyra leaned closer, her expression serious. "Do you ever think about what happens next? What do you want for our future?" Mark thought for a moment. "I want to keep building this village, to help it grow. I want us to be safe and happy here. And I want to be with you." Lyra's heart raced at his words. "I want that too. I want us to build a life together, one filled with love and adventure. Mark took her hand, feeling a warmth spread between them. "Then we will do it together. No matter what comes our way, we will face it side by side." As they sat together, under the vast sky filled with stars, they felt hope for the future. They had found their place in the world, and together they would create a life full of love, strength, and endless possibilities. Old foes return. The village had settled into a peaceful rhythm. Mark and Lyra worked hard, helping the villagers grow stronger every day. They built new huts, planted crops, and trained together. Laughter echoed through the village as everyone worked side by side, united by their dreams of freedom. But deep down, Mark could not shake the feeling that danger still lurked nearby. He remembered the fierce tribe they had fought off. They would not forget easily. One quiet afternoon, while the sun shone brightly, that fear became a reality. Mark and Lyra were in the forest gathering fruits when they heard a loud crash in the bushes nearby. Mark turned sharply, his heart racing. "Did you hear that?" he asked, eyes wide. Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "Yes, it sounded close." They listened closely, and the noise came again, followed by shouts. Mark's stomach dropped. "That's them. The tribe." Without wasting a moment, they ran back to the village, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they arrived, they saw villagers gathering, looking worried. The village leader was shouting orders, trying to organize everyone. "Mark, Lyra, you're back just in time," she called out. "The tribe is coming again. We need to prepare." Mark nodded, adrenaline surging through him. "We'll help. We must protect our home." Lyra stood beside him, her eyes filled with determination. "Let's warn everyone and get ready to fight." The villagers quickly gathered their weapons and formed a line. Mark felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He glanced at Lyra, who stood tall beside him, ready to face whatever came next. As the tribe approached, the air filled with tension. Mark could see the fierce warriors, their faces painted and weapons drawn. The tribe's leader stood at the front, a dark expression on his face. "Earthling, Amazon," he shouted. "You cannot hide from us. We have come to take you back." Mark stepped forward, his heart racing. "You will not take us. We are free now, and we will fight to stay that way." The tribe laughed, but it was a cruel sound. "You think you can stand against us again? You are weak without your tribe." The leader sneered. Mark felt anger rise within him. "We are stronger together. We will protect our home." The villagers stood beside him, their faces set with determination. Mark could see the fear in their eyes, but they would not back down. They had fought for their freedom, and they would not give it up without a fight. The tribe charged forward, and the battle began. Mark and Lyra fought side by side, moving quickly and effectively. Mark felt the rush of adrenaline as he dodged blows and struck back. Lyra moved like a dancer, her agility helping her avoid attacks while she defended their home. As the fight raged on, Mark noticed that the tribe was more organized this time. They had learned from their previous defeat and were attacking in waves. Mark could see some of the villagers struggling, their fear showing in their eyes. "Stay together," he shouted. "Hold the line." But the tribe was relentless. They pushed harder, trying to break through the villagers' defenses. Mark fought with everything he had, but he felt the weight of the battle pressing down on him. Lyra was beside him, matching his every move, her fierce spirit shining brightly. Suddenly, Mark caught sight of the tribe's leader charging towards them, a furious look on his face. "I will end this," he yelled, raising his weapon high. Mark knew they had to stop him. "Lyra, we need to take him down," he shouted. "Let's do it," she replied, her voice steady. They moved quickly, pushing through the chaos until they reached the leader. The air crackled with tension as they faced him. The tribe's leader swung his weapon, but Mark ducked just in time. Lyra darted forward, striking at the leader's legs. The leader roared in anger and pain, trying to regain his balance. Mark seized the opportunity, launching himself at the leader. They wrestled fiercely, grappling for control. Mark's heart raced as he fought with every ounce of strength he had. Finally, with a swift move, Mark pushed the leader down. Lyra quickly moved to help, and together they pinned him to the ground. "This ends now," Mark declared, breathing heavily. The tribe watched in shock, their confidence faltering. The leader struggled beneath them, but could not break free. "Leave this village," Lyra shouted, her voice strong. "You will never take us again." The remaining tribe members hesitated, fear creeping into their eyes. The villagers stood tall, ready to defend their home. Slowly, the tribe began to retreat, their leader defeated. Mark and Lyra stood together, watching as the tribe disappeared into the forest. Cheers erupted from the villagers, and relief washed over Mark. They had defended their home once again. But deep inside, Mark felt a nagging worry. The tribe would not give up easily. They would return, and next time, they might come back with even more warriors. That night, as the village celebrated their victory, Mark and Lyra sat together under the stars. Lyra turned to him, her expression serious. "What do we do now, Mark?" Mark took a deep breath. "We need to stay strong. We must prepare for their return. We can't let our guard down." Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "Together, we will find a way to protect our home." As they sat in silence, Mark felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced danger before, and they could do it again. With Lyra by his side, he knew they would always fight for their freedom and the future they dreamed of. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their quest for safety and love. Forever together. The village was quiet after the battle. The sun rose slowly, casting warm light over the huts and trees. Mark and Lyra woke early, feeling the weight of their last fight. They knew the tribe might return, and they needed to be ready. As they stepped outside, Lyra took a deep breath. "It's peaceful today," she said, looking around at the stillness. Mark nodded but felt a knot in his stomach. "Yes, but we cannot forget what happened. We have to prepare for anything." They joined the villagers, who were busy gathering food and fixing the huts. Mark could see the determination in their eyes. They had all fought bravely, and now they were ready to work together. "We need to train harder," Mark said, gathering the villagers. "The tribe may come back, and we must be ready." Lyra stood beside him, her voice strong. "We will teach each other everything we know. Together, we will become even stronger." The villagers nodded, eager to learn. Over the next few days, they practiced together. Mark taught them fighting techniques, while Lyra showed them how to be quick and agile. They laughed and shared stories, feeling the bond of friendship grow deeper. One afternoon, as they practiced near the river, a villager rushed in, breathing heavily. "Mark, Lyra, you need to come quickly." "What's wrong?" Mark asked, concern in his voice. "The tribe is coming back. I saw them in the distance." Mark felt his heart drop. "Gather everyone. We need to prepare for their arrival." The villagers quickly formed a line, ready to defend their home. Mark and Lyra took their places at the front, adrenaline pumping through their veins. They could see the tribe approaching, their numbers larger than before. "Stay calm," Mark shouted. "We have trained for this. We can win." The villagers nodded, their faces filled with determination. They stood together, ready to fight for their freedom. As the tribe drew closer, Mark could see the fierce leader at the front. He was angry and shouted, "You think you can defeat us again? We will take back what is ours." Lyra stepped forward, her voice strong. "You will never take us back. We are free, and we will protect our home." The tribe charged, and the battle began. Mark felt the rush of adrenaline as he fought alongside the villagers. They moved together, defending each other and pushing back against the tribe. Lyra fought with grace and speed, using her agility to dodge attacks and strike back. Mark felt proud to fight by her side. They were a team, working together to protect the village they had come to love. But the tribe was relentless. They pushed hard, trying to break through the villagers' defenses. Mark saw one of the villagers fall, and panic surged through him. "Stay together," he shouted, urging everyone to hold the line. As the fight raged on, Mark noticed the tribe's leader charging towards them once again. This time, he looked even more furious. "I will not let you escape," he roared, raising his weapon. Mark knew they had to stop him. "Lyra, we need to take him down together." "Yes, let's finish this," she replied, determination shining in her eyes. They moved quickly, pushing through the chaos until they reached the leader. The tension in the air was thick as they faced him. Mark felt a rush of energy, ready to fight for their freedom one last time. With a swift move, Lyra struck at the leader, forcing him to stagger back. Mark seized the chance and lunged forward, tackling him to the ground. The leader struggled, but Mark held him down, fueled by the desire to protect their home. "Enough," Mark shouted, his voice steady. "You will not take us again." The tribe hesitated, fear creeping into their eyes as they watched their leader being held down. The villagers rallied behind Mark and Lyra, their confidence growing. "Leave this place," Lyra shouted, her voice strong. "You will never take our freedom." Slowly, the tribe began to retreat, their fierce leader defeated. The villagers cheered, their spirits lifted by their victory. Mark and Lyra stood together, breathless and relieved. But as the sun began to set, Mark felt a weight on his heart. "We need to prepare for the future," he said softly. "They may come back again." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "We will always be ready. Together, we can face anything." That night, as they sat by the fire, the villagers celebrated their victory. They shared stories and laughter, the warmth of friendship surrounding them. Mark looked at Lyra, feeling grateful for her presence in his life. "Thank you for being by my side," he said softly. Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. "I would not want to be anywhere else. We are stronger together." As the stars twinkled above them, Mark felt a sense of peace. They had fought hard for their freedom, and they would continue to do so. But now they also had each other. "I want to build a life here with you," Mark said, his heart full of hope. "A life where we can be free and happy." Lyra took his hand, squeezing it gently. "I want that too. I want us to build a future together, no matter what comes our way." With their hearts entwined and their dreams aligned, they looked toward the horizon, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had fought for their freedom, and now they would build a life filled with love, strength, and adventure. Together, they would create a future where they could be forever together.